Hello viewers, you're welcome to my channel. My name is Omotola and I make videos on sewing tutorials. Today, I'll teach you how to sew a basic bodice with sleeves attached to it. Before I begin, do not forget to subscribe to this channel and remember to turn on your notification so that you can receive an alert for new videos when I make them. Okay? So in my previous videos, I have explained and taught how to draft a basic bodice. Then we drafted our basic bodice with brown paper. However, I told you in that video that it would be better if you use a tracing wheel to trace it onto a cardboard, which would eventually be your flat pattern with which you can draft out other designs from it. This is my front then, and this is my back pattern. Alright, so I have my sleeve here too. We had already drafted out the sleeve. This is the back and this is the front. So you want to cut this on clothes. When you are cutting on clothes, remember the front is ×2. You're cutting this, every of your pieces will be 2. This side is on the fold. So if you look at what I've cut out here, it is on fold. So when you cut, just make sure you create your seam allowance. I put mine as 1/2 inch, so it is evenly distributed. 1/2 inch at the shoulder, 1/2 inch by the side, and 1/2 inch at the base of the length here. So we do the same too for the side. 1/2 here, 1/2 by the base, 1/2 on the shoulder. But I made sure that my side seam is a bit more than 1/2. I do not want it to be too big, so I just made like 3/4 of an inch. So you do the same too for the back. For the back here, on our flat pattern for the back, I had already cut out the zipper allowance as 1 inch. So I do not need to add an extra sewing allowance again here. Now you would see that there are some white clothes here. These are the facing. If you do not have a serger that would close this on the inside for you, I recommend you get clothes, preferably for the inside of your clothes to be neat. You can make your facing to be of the same fabric as your fabric of the main clothes is. So like 2 inches length, and the wideness will be determined by the clothes itself. So take for an example, this, I have to cut this 2 inches for the height here, then I trace it down along the shape of the base like this way. This way, remember there are 2, 2, 2, and this is 2, but it is on fold, so the middle is not divided like that. Okay, so this our neck area too also need facing to have a neat finishing. So this is my facing for the back. You cut the exact shape out. I still maintained my 2 inches length like this, 2 inches like that. So I do the same too for the front like this. Now then another thing I did is this. For stability of this fabric, the fabric I use is a cotton lining, and it's quite light. So I wanted it to be a bit stable and thick. So in the market for fabric, for wherever tailoring materials are sold, this is called interfacing. They are different weights. This is the lightest of them all. So you cut it exactly, you cut shapes of this from it, and you use your iron to press them into place. Make use of your pin to attach them into place. Now, for the sleeve, remember I said there are some things that you can adjust on this. I wanted a blouse length that is a bit higher than the normal, so my blouse length is 25. This sleeve is a full sleeve, a long sleeve, but I wanted a short sleeve, so I decide where the length of my sleeve would reach. So this is where I wanted it to be. So I folded it this way and I cut it out on my fabric. I made sure that while I was cutting it, there was allowance here. You see? And I made sure there was an allowance to accommodate the seam too here. Now, in the sewing of these fabrics together, your seam allowance should match up. Like for the sleeve, whatever allowance you're giving for the sleeve here, let it match the allowance that will be at the side seam for the front and for the back piece. So if you are putting 1 inch, let it be 1 inch here, 1 inch here, and 1 inch for the sleeve. If it is just ½ inch, then let them be equal, let them be the same. Okay, so that is that. And I also cut a piece of facing too for the hand. So now let's sew. One more thing, when you want to sew, so that these things do not get confusing, attach the facing to the clothes with a pin, so you know what belongs to what, which fabric belongs to which facing belongs to which fabric rather. So now we are ready to sew. I have pinned the pieces together. This is our back pieces. Remember when it was on fold, I cut it into 2. Now, after cutting the same line into 2, it made it 4 pieces. So, these were the facing I cut. I said 2 centimeter height along the base. So I had to pin it so that it does not get mixed up with the other fabrics that I've cut. So this is for the back, and this is for the front and the sleeve. Now I'm going to start with the back. Watch me as I sew step by step. So first, you attach this facing at the base with a seam allowance of just ½ inch, which is roughly about 1.5 centimeter. Make sure you're sewing with a thread that matches your clothes, unless it's a design. So remove the pin, then top stitch to make it stay on that shape, so that the thread does not come loose due to washing. Do the same for the others. Remember, you're joining this facing to the base, and the facing will be the right side facing the right side of the fabric. So when you join like this and you turn this way, it will be, when you turn inside, this right side will be devoid of any stitch. It will be neat this way. So you top stitch on top of the facing. just as you did for the back facing, do the same for the front facing and for the sleeve facing. So I'm going to do the same right now. The facing front, facing the fabric front. Now, I'm done with sewing of the base facing. You would realize, you would observe that I have not sewn the facing of the width, of the neck width. I'll do that later. So this is what you do. For the back, find the pieces. You know, the back is separated into two regions. There is one that connects the seams together, the back seam and the front seam, which is the side like this, separates it. And there's the one that has the zipper allowance. This is it. Now this is what you do. Sew these lines first, the lines that have darts. Sew these lines first. The seam line here that has that. Sew them together. You sew it in such a way that it will also sew along this facing straight. You can start from the shoulder, you can start from the base. If your fabric is a bit stretchy, make sure you hold it together with a pin. Even if it's not stretchy, make sure you hold them together so that one does not draw while the other is tight. So with the half-inch allowance, half-inch seam allowance, you cut with. Cut them well, they should match. Okay. Let's go to the front and do the same. The front unfold. The first part gave us this. So unfold like this. These are the side for the dart. So sew it along this way and join this seam line that has that together. Half seam. Now, you want to join the shoulder slope of the back to the front. These are the two backs, and this is a single front. So, place the front this way. The back this way. So, turn it to face, let the right side face the right side, this way. So the shoulders, they face each other too, this way. Then sew with half-inch. While you are sewing this, remember there is a seam here. Make sure you open it, like separate it. The back, you separate the seam at the back, the seam that passes through the dart at the back. Also separate the seam that passes the front dart too. So This one is for the front. This is the front facing. Lay it on the right side, facing you this way. Then these ones are for the back neck. So it came this way. This is the shoulder slope here, while this is the shoulder slope here. So this is the right side, this is the right side. Let it face each other in this manner and sew together with half inch seam allowance. Now, all these need pressing. It needs your pressing iron before you continue sewing any other thing. All this middle, all the seam allowances, seam opening, they need you to press them. Now we want to press what we've sewn so far. The reason why you need to press is because you want all the creases in your clothes to stretch. All the new sewing you've done, you want them to press so that you can do an accurate measurement. So what you do is this: all this seam line that has two fabrics joined together, open them. Preferably use a steam iron. It will go a long way in making them open and stick to the opening. If you have a serger, an overlocking, an overhedging machine, we've overhedge all these edges. It will hem them for you, so it does not lose back to its former shape. Also remember that you also join this shoulder slope together. Open it this way too. Press. All this facing, you can finish it in two ways. Either you use your serger to hem this area together, all these edges, or you fold half inch, if you're able to, maybe 1 centimeter inside this way. Use your steam iron to press it together. This way. So it sticks to that position. Then fold it inward like this. And also press with the iron. Open the seam, the shoulder seam line. Go to the front and press. Okay. Now also fold inward. Now to make the fold, it's actually this facing for the neck width, for the neckline. It's actually in a circular form. So to make it easy for you to fold, just do some tiny notch, maybe a little, maybe around 0.5 centimeter. So it will be easy for you to fold inward while pressing it. If you do not, there are some that will keep coming, that will keep opening by itself. It won't lay. Okay, still on the ironing pieces. After you must have ironed and folded, then turn it to the side where it will eventually be, like this, inside, and press again. Use a pin to put them together so that they do not stray away from their original position. You see, I've done that for the front here. I've done it too for the back. Now, an additional thing, at the back, after you must have joined this your shoulder together, the two backs, go and join the zipper allowance together. My zipper allowance for this cloth is 1 inch. So I have sewn the 1 inch together. Now you must open it so that you will find it easy when you want to when you want to insert your zip. Your sleeve this way. Look for the front. For the front, I notched it twice, and for the back, I notched it once. So this area is for my front. I'll use pin to attach them together. You can only do this together, starting at the same point together, if your allowances are the same. So mine are the same, so I'll just use it as guideline. So when you are sewing, sew them together along those rows. Okay, now we're back to the machine to finish the bodice. There was a part at the back here, the zipper allowance that I saw that was 1 inch. I gave it 1 inch seam allowance. So I sewed it together to this down part. Now I'm loosening it again. I would loosen it to a level that would remain 2 inches here. This is why I want to sew my zip to it, but I do not want the zip to start from the beginning here. I rather want it to start from the down part. So hence I will end my zip around this place. Okay. Now if you want to insert zip, unless you are a very proficient sewer to an higher degree, I would advise that you get a zipper foot. This is a normal sewing foot for my machine. It won't do the work very well. So I got an invisible zipper foot. So this is what I have on my machine here. So this will aid me in sewing the zipper foot faster and neater. Okay, so let me do that now. Remember, there's still facing here. So this is what I'll do. I'll place my zip here on this edge, on this seam edge here. Okay. So after I've done that, I would make sure it's not joining to the facing. The way the zipper foot has been made, there are 2 openings here. So what it does is it would house one and sew on the plain face. So that's what I want to do now. So I've gotten to the 2 inches part now. Okay, when you get to that 2 inches part, you come in by, say, 3/4 of an inch, then back stitch. Okay, done with the first side. for this facing here, just turn it inward like this. You know, eventually it will stay this way, but first turn it inward this way. Use your pin to put it together. Now, let's sew the second zipper. This is the zipper foot. See, it has two holes here. One will insert the second zip and the other will be sewing the first zip opening. Just sew very close to the zip area. When you turn, you have something like this. Okay, so we are done with the zip now. What is left is for us to attach the facing around the neck region. So this is what you do. After you must have sewn the zipper allowance on the facing too together. Use a pin to attach them and place them in position around the neck. I'm going to do that now. This is to guide your hand as you sew. Choose a starting point. I'm starting from the back. Give it ½ inch seam allowance. Use a back stitch to secure your first stitch so that this facing can rest properly inside. This is what you do. Reduce this ½ inch seam allowance. Reduce it to about 1/4 of an inch by the time you're done with that. So turn it over this way and top stitch on top of the facing. Okay. So now we press this down. Okay. So now the facing you just finished sewing. Press it with iron, with a steam iron. After you must have done that, this facing needs to hold down to the body of this bodice. Either you hand hem it round yourself in a neat way if you know how to do that, or you use a serger. We normally call it taping machine here, but it's actually a cover stitch. Okay, so I have pressed the hemming gum in between the facing and the clothes, so it's pressed together now. All that is left to do is for you to do hand hemming or to use your machine to hold the gum together so that even after a few washes it does not remove on its own. Okay, so now we are going to attach our sleeve. I'll remove the pin of one so you know exactly how I did that again. This is your armhole. This is the midpoint. This is the shoulder joint, and this is your sleeve. This double notch here is for the front, and the single notch here is for the back. So place the back and make sure your seam allowance at the side is the same so that you can match it at the same point here. So either you just pin it together at some points here so that it does not move away while sewing, or you just hold your hand, you hold them together well and do not draw it. So this one we also sew by half inch. The same allowance is half inch. On this side, and it matches here. So we do the same for the other sleeve. Now I'm done with the sleeve attachments. But unlike these ones where you need to open them up and press, you do not need to do that for the seam, for the seam allowance along along the along the sleeve attachment line. So just leave it this way. You should use your serger to close up the edges so that the thread does not remove. Okay. Now all we are left with is the shaping of the body. Now, this step is quite important. I expect that while you were cutting your pattern paper, while you were cutting it with the clothes, you should mark the lines of the shape along the side. This is what I mean. I actually used a white chalk, so you may not see it properly. But there is a place I tried to highlight it here. While you were cutting this on a paper, this was where the paper itself reached. This is where it matches to the cloth, and so this edge to this edge is my sewing, it's my side seam allowance. So you must have done that along this line. Trace the pattern on each side so that when you are sewing, you don't struggle with measurement and keep trying to calculate points that, oh, where is my chest line, where is my waistline, because while sewing you may not be able to get them right. So it is best to trace out the pattern lines along the seam, along the side of your clothes, so that you just follow them properly. Me, I can see this because I've already traced it out, but it's actually with a white chalk, so you may not see them properly through camera. So I'm going to join them together now. So I'm just going to follow through the lines I've already made, so that I'm no longer making use of the tape to ascertain which measurement is right or not. This edge too. So now we are through with this basic bodice. What we've been learning so far is the measurements, the bodice pattern, and the sleeve pattern is what I used to cut this clothes, this fabric, and I made this style from it. So to make this into a more neat finish, try as much as possible to over edge this with an over edging machine, or a taping or a cover stitch machine, all these edges. Okay, so I'll wear this for you so you can see its fitness. But before that, I will iron this. Okay, so now before I try this on, I want to press it so that everything, there will be no fold or crease along the seams. So this is how you press this line, just as you open for the rest. Make sure you're using a steam iron, or if you don't have one, get a spray bottle, put water inside and spray on the clothes, then iron on it. So why you are doing this is to ease out all extra fabric that may have creased inward. And do for the side too. Iron the rest normally. Come to the end of today's class. This is the bodice I just finished sewing. So see the front and see the back. You can see that there is no bulge at the center. Yeah, and the sleeve, I wanted a short sleeve, so this is what I got. Now, in In our next class, first remember to subscribe to this channel, but in the next video, I'll be teaching you how to make another kind of bodice with a bust dart. So stay tuned and watch out for the next video.